So today I want to talk about the basic corner approach and response pattern and the AI recommended move attachment and this Hane. So we will talk about a few responses. I want to first go over the super basic ones first. So the most basic one, is to play that Tari connect. Basically, it pushes white on the second line, and then black can just extend to get a base, and then white makes a base, and then that's it. This is really simple. Black gets a base, white gets a base, but black gets sente, and this was black's corner to begin with. So um, yeah, this is very reasonable. And I know a lot of Q players would wonder, like, why not play a two-space extension if you can? You know, you get more points. Why play a one-space extension? Oh, well, when white plays 7, black plays 9. Okay, white plays 7. Oh yeah, that's a more complicated pattern, and we will definitely cover that later on when black cuts through white. Yeah, that's a more complicated fighting pattern, and we'll cover that. So, but first I want to talk about why one space extension, why not two space. So I'd say the easiest way to deal with a I'd say punish a two space extension is a really simple shoulder hit, and then white obviously has to connect, and then black gets this move in sente, and then white connects, and then remember this position, okay? And then now let's rewind back to the position where if white played a one space extension, let's say black plays an attachment. I mean, white right now would probably not play a move like this, right? There's no reason to. White would most definitely want to play a Hane, right? And yeah, and I hope you see that this is, let's say these moves were exchanged, something like this, then you can see that this position is definitely better than the previous one, where white and exactly, where white ended up playing a two-space extension, and white didn't even get the chance to Hane on this stone. So basically, you can think of it as if you play a two-space extension, you are allowing your opponent to sente push you down to a lower position, which is quite painful. So that's a really basic way to explain why one space, even though it looks like it gives you fewer points, it's actually better than the two space. And yeah, and there are other ways to take advantage of a two space extension. For example, an attachment. If you come back, then black will even get a nice peep. And if you connect, then black got a lot of influence outside in sente. And if you don't connect, that's even worse because you get pushed down to second line territory, and black gets an even thicker and stronger wall. So yeah, two space extension is pretty bad. So this is the basic pattern. And then we can also talk about another basic pattern where black can just connect and push this way. Or if you want, you can even just play the tiger's mouth directly. And then black takes influence in sente, and yeah, black can basically tenuke elsewhere. And obviously, black will only play like this if he thinks that the top side has really good potential for development. So this is another basic pattern that we should know. Okay, so now we learned the basic stuff. Let's start looking into the opening. say there's a really typical opening, and say black, oh, sorry, let me look at the cheat sheet. Okay, say black approached here, and white defended here, and then black, and then this Joseki happens. So where do you think white should play right now? So, oh, d18. So yeah, oh, this is a really interesting thing. So if you play d18, black obviously connects. And then here we see that there's opportunity to capture a second line stone, right? So white captures, black Ataris, white obviously need to defend, and then black captures. And then here, white is already in the pretty bad position, I'd say, because white is about to get separated. So white needs to bend here to save her stone, but then black can get a really thick and nice shape. Like if white extends here, then black basically Sente got influence and around white's corner, which is quite painful, allowing your opponent to get Sente to settle down and get pretty good influence around the corner that's yours to begin with. This is really painful. You can see this is all just second line territory. Yeah. What if instead of white playing 16, plays at 17? Oh, so yeah, black just extends, right? So white can't save the stone. This is just ladder, right? And if white needs to connect, she needs to play like this. She will have to connect like this. It's still, white is still in Gote. Black can either make an extension, or actually black is quite strong, so strong that he can probably start approaching another corner, or approaching another corner, or invading white's corner. So this result is quite painful for white. Does that make sense? Like black can extend because white, yeah, this is just ladder, right? Okay. Yeah, so yeah, so basically in this Joseki, remember, don't capture a second line stone. Here, we can apply one of the basic patterns, basic pattern where white focus on developing this side, and hence, decide to choose this Joseki to get a Sente, influence around her corner. And start approaching. And then here, say black got envious of white's, potential and start approaching here. Let's assume that we try to play this Joseki again. Then here, now, if white chooses the same old Joseki like this, then there's an issue. That is, this wall is not very useful. Like, because black stones are here, limiting white's potential. So meaning that white right now cannot use the same old basic Joseki. Yeah, so that's an issue. So now this is where we need to learn a more complicated Joseki. And in this case, when you know that there's a side that you want to develop, and you know that there's good potential in developing it because you built the potential here, then you should play this move. This will result in a fight, and it can be pretty complicated. So now we'll learn this more complicated fighting pattern. And here, black has actually two options. I can choose to cut or capture a corner. So let's talk about the easier option first. Capturing the corner is obviously the more easy one. So if black captures, white defends cutting point, black bumps here. So black lived the corner in Sente. That's pretty profitable, pretty good. But white's wall is completely flawless, but there is no push and cut here, right? Because the moment when black push and cut, white just extends and these 3 stones are dead, or more like the entire corner is dead. So white is perfect. The wall is absolutely perfect. So black now absolutely needs to start invading. After giving your opponent a perfect wall, you need to start invading right now. What if instead white plays 5, she plays e4. White plays, okay, let me think. White plays 5 instead of e. Okay, let me think. So I'm not quite sure, Oliver, are you, so instead of playing that, like white plays like this move, are you asking about this? Okay, great. So if white plays like this, so this is a really good point, Oliver, because when white plays like this, white is getting sente. And you might think, oh, what if white plays this big point? Yeah, yes, this is big, but white also has a really severe cut. And I'm not entirely sure if this fight is good for white, especially since these 2 stones would be pushed down, yeah, to a lower position, and blacks would be actually stealing white's influence, I'd say. I don't know if this is really good for white, because you can see how black is kind of stealing white's influence in the center, right? Whereas previously, if white would just extend, you know, white actually has potential to, because white has a wall here and also a stone here, the lower side actually still belongs to white. Whereas in the previous diagram, the moment when black cuts white, black basically pushed white down to a very low position and developed some potential himself. So I would not recommend basically I would not recommend this diagram. Yeah, because you lose so much on the lower side. But it's certainly a very smart way to gain sente if white is very desperate for a sente. Yeah. So yeah, the Joseki would be very simple like this. Black starts invading, white got a complete wall that's perfect and even has potential to develop the lower side. This is playable for both, but probably slightly better for white. So let's go back here. We talked about the easy way for black to play. Turns out the cutting is actually a little inferior compared to the previous way because this fight is going to be good for white, especially when she has good influence at the top left corner. So let's just look at this real quick. White has to save the 2 stones. Black now lives in the corner. Okay, black's corner is alive, and white Ataris. And here, so a typical Joseki sequence would involve black connecting, saving the cutting stones, and white would push here. And this push is really big because it immediately basically kind of generate a lot of potential points on the left side and threatens to capture these 3 stones. Black runs, and then here, white jumps again. And basically, all of these moves are very profitable for white because it's just immediately developing the left side, potentially gaining white a lot of points. Black obviously needs to bamboo join to defend, and then white extends once more. Yeah, so white is getting a huge wall on the left, developing the left side, and then black must come up with a way to counterattack these cutting stones. Otherwise, this kind of cut, or let me just show you. If black just jumps out like this, you can see that black stones are not worth a dime. Like, it doesn't make any points whatsoever, whereas white already gains so much influence on the left, and is already generating some profit at the lower side. This is an unacceptable result for black. So black must counterattack. And this is the most challenging move that black can play. And basically pushing white, potentially capturing white, basically. And here, white obviously has to run. And then now, AI actually recommends this mysterious peep, but it's actually not that mysterious if you think about how much potential white has. This peep is basically saying that as black, you should be committed to invading white's territory later on. And that's why this peep is good. If black is not committed to invading this territory, then this peep is horrible, because black just lost a Sente Hane, Sente 2-point endgame with this Hane, right? Because previously, this Hane was an absolute Sente. So you lose the Sente 2-point for no reason. But it's still worth it, because black is committed to invading this moyo later on. Anyway, after making this peep, black plays this Hane, and then white is actually struggling to save her cutting stones. So white is now offering a trade, and black is now committed to just killing everything here. So if you're wondering what the trade is, it's this double Atari forcing black to capture, and then black now kills everything here. And then white gets to capture this in Sente, black defends, and then here you can see how black successfully captured cutting stones. But that's it, whereas white successfully built a huge wall. These are all really nice moves. And actually, black cannot even push and cut, because black has shortage of liberties. So when white bends, it's pretty much a Sente. So white's wall is once again perfect. And yeah, white should look forward to pushing here. This is a really nice move to further develop this moyo. And yeah, basically, this is how white should play to develop the left side, given that Joseki option. So there are a lot of subtleties here. For example, during this crosscut, oh, what should white do if black, or with black extends? So if black extends, it's actually really bad for black, because when white plays Atari, black extends, white can just connect here. And then black has a shortage of liberty on this side, and these stones are about to be captured. So Atari would be a terrible idea, but if black bends, white connects, and then yeah, I think even the net will, yeah, even net will just kill everything off, because black doesn't have a ton of liberties. And if you're wondering, oh, black can still capture the stone, or capture the cutting stones like this, but that's giving white a Ponuki, which is really, really bad. It just strengthens this side, and white's influence is still perfect. It's still really, really good. Yeah. So this is still not great for black. And here, when black Ataris, it's important to note that white cannot extend, because if white extends, now black can play this extension. And if you're wondering, oh, then white just captures this stone, it's the same thing. Well, it's different. It's different now, because right now it's black Sente, right? White basically, previously white got Panuki, but white wasted a move here for nothing. and it's black sente now. So this is unacceptable for white, okay? So when black Atari's here, there's no backing out. White has to give up her stones, and this is the only way to continue to play. And yeah, white sente gets a nice wall by giving up these stones, these cutting stones. So I'd say this is the basic fighting Joseki. I know it's complicated, but it's worth learning so that you can maximize the use of your influence. Okay, let's go back. I hope, did I miss anything? H2, what if white plays H2 instead of 4? I hope I answered that, right? Yeah, plays the extension instead of the double Atari, right? So I think I answered that. That is, if white plays the extension, black just extends. And if white saves this group, then black ladders this. Then white has to like crawl on the second line to make 2 eyes. That's just too painful. Yeah, this and if white captures, we covered this, that is black sente captures these cutting stones and can come back here to reduce the moyo. Anyway, I hope that answered your question, Oliver. Okay. So that's the basic fighting pattern here. But now what I'm gonna talk about is trick moves, because we all need to know how to deal with it. So here, the proper move is an Atari, but we must know how to deal with this net. It's a really, really powerful trick move. It's also really bad for white if black knows how to respond properly. So here, say if black is so committed to saving his stones, this tiger's mouth is the only way to save it, the only way. And in this case, the key stone is this one, right? This is the key cutting stone. So white would first attack from this side, forcing black to connect, and you can see that black is in really bad shape. White plays a Hane, forcing black to capture, and then white Atari, black connects, white clamps, and then this, this is already, white's win rate is already 90-something%. So this is almost game over for black because white's wall is so perfect, and white also got sente. Yeah, so this is really bad for black. So that's how you get tricked, by capturing the 3 stones. So here, I guess surprisingly, the best way to deal with the trick move is to just give up 3 stones in sente. And here, white's only move, white can't play Hane because black would just push out. So white's only move is an extension. So black sente died 3 stones, but this is good enough for black because in fact, it's really good for black. Right now, white's win rate is probably only 50%, whereas previously she would have gotten the 60% if she played the Joseki pattern, where she built a really big wall in sente. So yeah, this is a huge mistake for white because the Aji here is incredibly bad. I just want to let you know that even a move like this far away, well, needless to say, all of these moves are black sente. All of these moves are, all of these moves are black sente. With white 2 is at C7. Oh, yeah, C7 is very painful for white. Let's look at that real quick. Very painful, because when black pushes, white can't even block here, right? White just lose 3 stones. So this, and if you're wondering, oh, then does that mean white gets a really nice influence? Not really, because there's still a cutting point here, black can still push here, white did not get a wall in sente. It is completely different from the previous scenario where white got a perfect wall in sente. Yeah, in this case, white has too many cutting points to be proud of this kind of wall. And if white chooses to save for 3 stones by extending, then you can immediately tell that this stone is very out of place. This is just a bad move. It's not doing anything. So that's why this Hane is not good. Yeah, okay. So that's why the only way for white to play is here, but you can see that all of these moves are black sente. So I just want to show you how this can be sente. Let's say black right here, then white cap try to kill everything, and then something bad would happen. So black jumps out, white obviously wants to cut, but then black just Atari his way out. And if white Hane is here, then black just ladders the stone, right? The stone is just laddered, and everything here just dies. So if the net doesn't capture the cutting stones, when black runs out, then white just dies here at the second line. It's very painful. So it's quite incredible that a move this far away is like a forcing move against white capturing these stones. Here, white actually needs to answer, which is painful because it's just, this kind of thickness is just really not efficient. So AI actually recommends that you let white, build a wall, and then you go ahead and invade it, because it just is just so easy to invade given all the terrible Aji. I think this is one of the recommended sequence, but it's hard to play because using Aji requires a lot of reading and reading out Tesuji and whatnot. And yeah, that's why this kind of trick move is also, I guess it's challenging to punish, because it does require a lot of reading. But if you're strong enough, I think you can punish this trick move really well by making good use of the terrible Aji that white has. Oh, and by the way, even a move like this is sente, because black can just jump out right now because this is a double Atari, right? So yeah, there are just way too many good sente moves for black to play around this area. Anyway, so that's that about the trick move. Okay, now let's go back and let's switch the direction of the approach. Previously, we set black approach here. Let's try here. And let's say this is also played out. So as human beings, we want to be consistent. So a lot of times we would think about playing like this and just try to build like 2 walls facing each other. But AI doesn't like it, because AI would say that, oh, your influence owes a move. Then this means that you have to kind of gote to develop your influence properly. In that sense, I actually agree with AI. If you ever find yourself to play like these kind of extension, 3-space extension, maybe you are not maximizing the use of your influence. So here, in order to maximize the use of white's influence, instead of playing like the symmetric pattern, like this, AI actually recommends the fighting pattern, which is weird. I thought so, because if we fight again, say we repeat the same kind of Joseki, if we fight again, then here I already feel like, man, this is basically completely the wrong direction, right? I'm building a wall, but I'm not building it at the right direction that I want, which is true. This is actually the wrong direction to play. So here, AI says that, okay, you don't play this jump, you play this jump. And black is still under attack. Black still needs to fix his shape, and then you attack from this side instead. And I hope that, yeah, we can appreciate how flexible AI's mind is. It's not like, oh, I memorized a pattern, I have to use it. You can change it up to the right direction so that it works in your favor. And black's group is still really weak. Like as in black cannot tanuki easily because white can get a really nice cap considering that this bump is actually her sente. So basically black's group is still weak, and white can also, make this kind of extension to defend the lower side. And yeah, basically through this attacking, white can kind of save the effort of ever playing an extension stone here and just like think about it, you just take points from above instead of ever having to waste a move here to make an extension. So I thought that was a pretty interesting thing about the AI's recommended play. Yeah, you can attack from this side. You don't have to always jump from this side. Okay. Okay, let me look at my cheat sheet real quick. Okay, so let's look at some other scenarios of approaching. Okay. Say black approaches from this side instead of, the other way, and black plays like this. So now, how should white go about playing? Let me show you if we play a basic pattern first. If we play like this, then this means that, oh, I'm building influence here. I'm going to try to develop the top side, but the top side is already facing your opponent's stone, which means that your top side is limited to at most this much territory. So it's kind of like your wall is facing the wrong direction, right? So in this case, instead of playing this basic, sente taking influence pattern, AI recommends a territorial move, which is this extension. So this extension, well, it's threatening to capture black stone. So black obviously needs to defend. But if you play like this, then this is like a huge minus according to AI. You at least lose maybe like 3-4%, because this kind of shape is actually really bad eye shape. Previously, the basic pattern is like this, right? Where white kind of shorted her own liberty with this and basically an exchange of these two moves. This exchange, I am very confident that it is bad for white because she shorted her own liberties, and she also lost the chance to get a bend here, or basically a bend and a subsequent Atari for a sente endgame. And she also lost the chance to play a throw in at the tiger's mouth. Whereas in this situation, in the future, white can choose to bend and get a sente endgame at the Atari spot, or in the future, she can consider throw in to poke out an eye. Basically, there are much better options for white in this diagram than the previous. And yeah, not to mention that these two stones are not short in liberty. So this result is pretty bad for black, and actually black owes a move right now. Otherwise white would, pincer black. It would be really painful for black. So when white extends here, black cannot play like a double tiger's mouth to get good shape, because when white peeps here, black's doubles tiger's mouth, the shape is basically crushed. It's really bad. Here, the best move locally that black could play is this tiger's mouth. And and first of all, this is a good move because it brought this low group, a third line group, to the fourth line. So that's one good thing. And it's also aiming at a potential Atari to limit your opponent's influence. So it's a really good move in general. But needless to say, white is going to play this Atari, right? and then black obviously connects, white captures, and then black takes influence, white takes territory, and this is the recommended play when black approaches from this side, because there's not a ton of value for white to get a Sente influence, given that there's a black stone here limiting white's development. So this is another basic pattern. And wait. Oh, do you have any questions?
It looks like bad shape for black.
Oh yeah, it's bad shape. But nowadays AIs don't even care. Right? I mean, as human beings, I'll be like, it feels so bad. But yeah, I guess the AI just really doesn't care that much about the shape. So let's look at this situation. Black approaches, and then black plays 3-3. And say white, wants to take territory. Okay, what if black plays 5 when white plays b15? Okay, sorry. Let's look into addressing that question first. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Black plays 5 when white plays b15. Wait, white never played b15, did she? White played... Oliver, I don't think I get it. White never played b15, so the other way around. First, black plays 5, white b15 response. Okay, actually, I don't know what you mean by 5. Oh, you mean like white plays 5, like takes away black's extension? If white does take away black's extension, then black just extends into the corner. Then this is really painful for white, because white doesn't have a good base, and white's liberties are really short. I think white's best... No, I actually really don't know how white should play. Maybe a 2-space extension like this. But yeah, it's painful when your liberties are so short. There's a lot of bad agi. And when black gets a descent here, black is practically alive. So that's going too easy on your opponent, to allow your opponent to have a living group right next to your corner so early in the game. That's too easy. A lot of times you want to keep your opponent not alive, like this. Your opponent is definitely not alive, and they owe a move. And if in the future you get to invade here, if you do, then your opponent is not alive again. So a lot of times in Go, you don't want to let your opponent live so comfortably around your corner. Yeah. Okay. So now let's consider, this scenario where black approached and then immediately invade your 3-3. And then white played out this, white played out this really territorial Joseki. And then black comes back to play this again. So now, should we still play this Joseki? Or do you see that there might be an issue playing this Joseki again? Any thoughts?
Well, white's got a wall facing it.
Yeah, so turns out this Joseki, the really interesting thing is that there's always a risk of starting a ko. And this ko is extremely light for black. And to judge if a ko is light for something, we just need to look at what are the consequences. Say white takes. Say, okay, let's assume that black does not play a ko threat. nothing serious, because black can totally play a co-threat. Let's assume that he's nice, he doesn't play a co-threat, and say white finished the co. We can tell that white did not kill any one of these 3 stones. White just kind of solidified her corner, and that's it. So this is how you can tell that, yeah, this co is light for black. There are no severe consequences. Whereas, for white, black would just destroy, white's entire corner. That's just unacceptable. So that's one thing about this territorial Joseki, that is, when black has really good co-threats, right now, he's just going to extend. And white obviously cannot give up the entire corner. And then white will just struggle to find a co-threat. And then now black is not even going to finish the co. Black is going to play like this because black has another really good co-threat. Let's look at this. Another really good co-threat here is not, it's not bending here, because bending here, you're just losing points. It is playing the second line here, forcing white. This is basically an inside versus outside exchange. And then black takes again. And then here, white basically doesn't have any good co-threats anymore. I mean, white cannot make this kind of exchange. Black has an incredible influence, whereas white just has 2 stones around 1 stone that she hasn't even captured yet. So if white can't do anything severe to a corner, then white has to play like this. And this is already like pretty bad for white. And if you're wondering why black never bothered capturing that stone, it's because, I mean, this co is so light for black, right? Even if white captures, it's not a big deal. Black stones are all running on the outside and is getting like almost up to a 5th line influence. And yeah, black is also gaining good benefits, elsewhere because of white trying to fight the co. So yeah, I just want you to appreciate that an early 3/3 invasion could potentially sometimes give you some good co-threats. And when you see this kind of Joseki pattern, whenever you see your opponent extending like this, you should always ask yourself, wait, do I have good co-threats? Because if you can, black should definitely fight this co. So that is something to always remind yourself. This co is light for black. Just start the co when you see good co-threats for black. Which in this case, which means that white struggles to play the, I guess, quote unquote, so-called optimal territorial move, which is also why AI recommended another territorial move, and it is this double Hane. So this double Hane could be resolved in a really peaceful way where black just connects, white connects, and then black is still not alive, right? So he would just play 2-space extension, white gets Sente, that's it. Or it could be where black plays a shape move, and then white Ataris here. And here, the really interesting thing is that black can start a co right now, but this co is heavy for black and light for white. And the easiest way to analyze like when something is heavy or light is to just finish up the co. So if white takes first, say black does not play a co threat, he's being really nice, white takes first, then these 3 stones are pretty weak. It only has a stone, up to a 3rd line, whereas white's corner is, I guess, perfect. So it's hard to say that, yeah. And so I'd say it's not that great for black. Whereas if we say black used the co-threat, white captures, and say white played elsewhere, let's look at this. When black takes, however, well, first of all, this is a 1st line capture. A 1st line capture is not impressive because, and not only because after you capture, it's not like you gain good influence anyway. Black's influence is actually up to the third line stone, and that's it. And here, when even if, actually it's white's move, here, even if black pincers, white has a really nice double tiger's mouth. It's close to impossible to kill this thing in a clean way. Yeah, white already has really good eye shape. So meaning that this kind of ko, it's really light for white. It's not great for black. So I hope from this, little ko, exercise, we can have a better understanding of how to evaluate what's light, like who has a heavier burden in terms of a ko fight. You just go ahead, finish the ko and evaluate the both black and white positions. The first thing that you can look at is the influence that black gets after taking the stone. And in this case, yeah, taking a first line stone is really not impressive. And white still has a really good follow-up for the shape move at the double tiger's mouth. So basically, this ko is just not good for black. And the AI recommended move is actually playing this ko shaped, allowing white to capture, and then get this Atari. And basically, black got fifth line influence, which is pretty good. And this is white's, another way of playing the territorial play if the co-threat situation is not advantageous for white. Okay. Does that make sense so far? I hope the code stuff wasn't too overwhelming for you guys. Okay.
So basically, when you play that variation as white, you have to be aware that there's that ko possibility.
Oh yeah, I'd say both sides should always be mindful of the ko possibility. Yeah, and black should know that this ko is not great for black because, yeah, it's just bad capturing a first line stone afterwards. Whereas the other situation, black has it was so much more destructive to white's corner, and white didn't have a good shape move as a follow up later on either. Okay, so let me look at my cheat sheet. Okay, finally, we're gonna get more difficult stuff. Okay, we still have like 9 minutes. Okay, so let's say black approached here instead, and black played like this. So here, once again, white is not necessarily interested in developing the top side. So choosing this kind of basic pattern, I'd say it won't be that optimal. So here, when you have basically whenever you have supporting stones on the other side of the corner, I'd say that it's worth considering this move. Oh, thanks, Oliver. And here, if black chooses to fight again, then we will see that this fight, yeah. This fight basically will once again, let me just play this out real quick. Will once again give white Sente influence here and allow white to, make a nice moyo without ever having to play like an extension stone in between. So this is like the typical way of how AI likes to build her territory. It's not like through, two space extension, 3 space extension, but like, this kind of big moyo. And in this case, if black knows that, if attaching here directly would result in that kind of, white's big moyo, here, if black chooses to play a shoulder hit, kind of like preemptively reducing white's potential and then attaching, then white, doesn't have to do the same thing again. White can also be really flexible and choose a Joseki that would limit, that would basically push black on the side where he throws some reduction stones at. And then you can see that how these reduction stones, it's kind of reducing nothing because white never really committed to building a moyo here. Basically, white didn't choose the cutting Joseki, so she didn't build the moyo, and white was able to flexibly push black down to the side where there's a lower value. And then now white can start developing the top side. So I guess from this example, I just want to show you that the attachment Joseki gives white a lot of options. And yeah, you can play flexibly about which side you want to choose. If you want to choose this side, you can descend all the way down. But if your opponent already throw like a shoulder hit and one space jump here, then you're not interested in developing the left side anymore. Then you can just play like the basic pattern, get Sente influence, and then develop the top side instead. So yeah, I'd say it's important to be able to be flexible in playing Go and always try your best to find the optimal pattern, optimal Joseki for the board position. Yeah. And okay, we still got 5 minutes. Any questions so far? Because there's one pattern that I thought was pretty interesting that I want to cover. Whew. So let's say there was this kind of opening and say white approached the wrong side of the board because normally white would approach here. Here, black obviously would want to defend his corner because white is strong elsewhere. And if white plays like this again, should black play this kind of Joseki? What are your thoughts?
If well, one idea, if black plays the other way, the standard way, then
like this?
Yeah, like that. Then white's stone in the middle gets weaker.
Yeah. So it's kind of like using your own influence to neutralize your opponent's influence.
Right.
Though I'd say it's a little painful that your influence is, I mean, it's like your opponent got the extension that you wanted already. So basically this side has very limited development and your opponent has the better position for developing the top side. So that's the one thing that's slightly painful. So in this case, when you know that you don't have the ability to develop the top side, it is important to come up with a territorial Joseki. So the reason why I asked this is because if black plays like this territorial Joseki, white can immediately start a ko, right? Basically, every time in the beginning of the game, if you have invaded a corner, you most likely have a ton of ko threats, or you have given your opponent a ton of ko threats, right? Because once white pushed down, he can kill the corner.
Right.
So whenever you invade the corner early, like if you ever do an early 3-3 invasion, a lot of times you will end up having to play this Joseki instead. And then white can connect, you can connect. And then, yeah, that's good enough for both sides. Or something like, yeah, this. This would be the appropriate way to answer.